Here are actually two ways to literally get free money or your money reimbursed if you go study abroad that not a lot of people know about, so I'll just tell you. So if you guys are watching this video, you're either really nosy or you also want to study abroad as well. Whichever one it is, I don't really care, but I basically thought I had so many DMs and so many like questions all over my TikTok comments and people asking me like, how are you doing it? How are you affording it? What is it like? How are you managing your budgets? So I was like, let me just address all of that in one video, which is the video you're watching right now. First of all, let's just start by giving you some context. So when you go to study abroad, assuming that you're watching this video to study abroad, it does depend on like where you want to live, because of course like cost of living is different in every country. So for context, for me specifically, my experience, I'm in California at the moment, San Francisco specifically, and it's literally one of the most expensive cities in like the whole entire world ever. So let's just talk about things that you have to factor in when you're studying abroad cost-wise. The first and most important thing, which is like the only thing that will enable you to actually go abroad, is the visa. So we've got visa costs. When you're coming to the US, you've got to pay for this thing called a SEVIS fee as well. I don't even know why I had to pay for that, so like don't ask me anything about that. I just had to pay for it. And if you're a student, then you most likely will also have to pay for it. Cool. Then you pay for the flight. The flight, I don't actually low-key have to pay for, my parents paid for it anyway, but that's just a cost to factor in. The flight. Then, so visa involves like quite a few things. So like I said, the SEVIS fee, then you've got to pay to like send it off, and then you can also pay extra if you want it delivered to a house. I wasn't about to pay that, so I went to Chancery Lane in London to go and pick it up. But I think like there are a few, they're not all in London, so if you live far from London, then there must be another one next to you. But anyway, whatever, that's irrelevant right now. So let's carry on talking about other things. Then you've got to factor into their pre-departure costs. There is another one which I didn't actually think about until it was a bit too, I don't want to say too late, it wasn't late, but it was very last minute. And that one is vaccination. So basically each uni is different in like the requirements for their vaccinations, usually, you know, beforehand, but that's just another pre-departure cost that you've got to factor in and you've got to pay for. I needed like every single vaccine, and I literally had to get the COVID. I had both of them, but I had to get the third one, and I couldn't even get that here, so I had to get it when I was in America, because we just don't offer the booster in England anymore. But anyway, so they're like pre-departure costs that I can think of. Then, specifically with the US, you have to pay for medical insurance. So like that was hefty, that was a lot of money. And then also travel insurance, because when you're doing study abroad, in most cases you have to pay for a travel insurance thing as well. So insurance altogether probably cost me like £2,500, which is a lot, but then again, like it is worth it. Like it's something you just have to do, like you have to pay for it. You can't really get away with not paying for health insurance, especially somewhere in America. You just don't want to risk it, do you know what I mean? And in some cases it's mandatory. So in my uni it was mandatory. Don't know about you, and I don't know about other countries, but if the option is there, like definitely get it. I don't see why you wouldn't get it, but it is a bit more on the more expensive side of things. Anyway, yeah, so that's insurance. Then we've got to think of, now imagine you've moved in, you're in a new country, what costs come in now? So now you have to think of accommodation, food, I don't know why I said it like that, food, and transport. So they're like the three main little things. Like there are other things like textbooks, and I don't know if you got like a trip, like things like that, things that just come up that you don't expect to pay for. So you got stuff like that, and sometimes like you might have like random fees that you've got to pay for, but we'll get to that. Let's think of, now you've landed in a new country, what do you have to pay for? So yes, accommodation is a main and the most expensive thing, but again, it does depend on where you're staying. So again, San Francisco is notoriously expensive. I'm having to pay in a shared room. As you can see, that's my bed there, that's my roommate's bed there. I don't know what you can see in the frame, but if you can see two beds, then that's good, I've done a good job. And roughly for a shared dingy tiny little room, with all amenities included, which is a good thing, it's about £1,500 a month on average for a shared room. But it's on campus, which I do like, and there is better security. But oh my god, I just remembered another cost that you're gonna have to pay for. It kind of links into food, but it's not exactly, is a meal plan. So you don't always have to get a meal plan. It does depend on like what school you go to. Mostly it's like an American school thing. Do they say that's mandatory? In some cases it's easier, and you might actually prefer having a meal plan. Like it's so much better, you don't have to cook. I actually don't have one. I wanted to be exempt from it because it's like kind of expensive, and it's just not a cost that I had like factored in, so I don't really want a meal plan. But a meal plan is basically like a plan of a meal, do you know what I mean? It's like a package, and you pay for it, and you go to the canteen every day and you eat and that's it's like a buffet. So that's what meal plan is. Sometimes if it's mandatory, you will have to factor that cost in as well, and it does depend on the package, but it's roughly like $300 a month on average. But again, it really depends on like how many packages you're getting. You could get like 5 meals a week, you can get like 20 meals a week. So yeah, of course the cost differs. Okay, accommodation is definitely the most expensive thing to factor in, but that does differ on where you get like a 9-month contract or you get a 12-month contract. That is one of the factors that you're gonna have to think about, and of course it does depend on your visa, so that's up to you. Of course, the longer, the more you're gonna have to pay in the long run, but that's that. Then we've got food. So groceries, again, it depends on where you're living. If you're living in like a European country, it will be much cheaper, but in San Francisco, like produce, fresh produce, groceries, and meats and stuff are pretty expensive. That's just how it is. Cheaper things are like snacks, frozen food, things like that, from what I've seen, but generally like it is a bit more expensive. We've got a Target and Trader Joe's right near us, and to be fair, like I think it's moderate. I wouldn't say it's really bad, but it depends on what you cook, because I can get away with, like, I'm not that fussy. If I have to have like a cheaper meals, I can live off that, I can survive, do you know what I mean? But some people are fussy and they want to have like a really nice meal, which is fair enough, but that will cost you a lot more. Like you're going to be spending probably up to like $80 per Target trip, whereas I do think I'm quite good at like budgeting and spending really wisely and like not eating the most delicious nutritious meal if I can just get by with it, if that makes sense. So like, yeah, so that's what I can do. Another thing that I just thought of now, and I want to say before I forget, is a mobile phone plan. So again, it depends on your country, that's just a disclaimer, but that's another cost that I did not think about. I just didn't think about it. So let's say you're going from the UK, wherever you're going from, maybe you can keep your phone SIM and just pay a bit extra and like keep that. I chose to not do that because it was just long. I just didn't do that. But instead I went with Mint Mobile. They are actually really cheap. I've not had any issues with them so far, but they're basically just like a normal phone contract. You pay as you go, and mine's an eSIM, so that is pretty good. I would recommend it. It's really, really cheap. Like I'm paying for the first 3 months $15 a month, and I get, I think it's like unlimited calls, unlimited text, unlimited data, which is like the cheapest you could ever find it. And also in my head I like literally turn everything into pounds, so I'm like, oh my god, that's like £12, how cheap. So it is cheap. I think it's really cheap. After 3 months it does get a bit more expensive, but generally I think they're like the cheapest mobile network to be with. So that's that. I just wanted to mention that before forgetting. And then transport as well. So in San Francisco we've got quite good transport links, because we've got like the BART, the Muni, these buses. I don't completely understand it, but we've got a few different modes of transport, and Ubers as well. That is another thing you're going to want to factor in, because as a student here, for me it's actually free, but it might not be free for wherever you go. So that's something you're going to definitely want to consider, because transport, getting by, especially if you want to like explore and see stuff, or if you're commuting in to go to your college, like you're going to need to like factor in a cost for that. And as well as that, like the Uber, because sometimes like it's just cheaper and better and like way more convenient. So again, like, are you going to be using it to go to, for example, one of my friends, she's got like an off-campus class that she has to go to in like the design studio, so each week she has to factor in that cost, because it's just better and more convenient for her to use Uber. So that's like $40 extra a week, yep, going there and coming back, that she has to pay. So don't know how you want to think of that, how you want to factor that in, and whether you want to like go and split it with friends or whatever, I don't know, but it's just something to think about. Textbooks, again, I didn't think about textbooks, but they're expensive. They're really expensive, like so expensive. Like, given, I get it, like people spend years of their life researching and like writing these books and stuff, like they're hefty books that come with a hefty sum. So definitely factor in, like put a lot of money aside for that, because it's so expensive. Generally other expenditures just come with like going out and doing things, getting food, things like that, like extra for like services and stuff. Often there's like fees on top, or like taxes that you pay at the end, tipping, things like that. So that's just like have extra cash on you, because you just never know. So they're like the main things that I can think of at the moment in terms of like fees, taxes, just extra expenditures. And now let's think of how to get the money. So this is like the nitty gritty, like the little bits that everybody wanted to know. So I'll just go from the start, and I'll just say it all. I'll be very transparent, because why not? So my pajama trousers. I don't know if you saw that. Let's just hide it for now. So basically, right, when you're applying to study abroad, according to your visa, like, they need to know that you can actually afford it, and that they need to like approve you being able to go out, if that makes sense. So basically, when I did it, and again, I think it does depend, like, it differs for every country depending on cost of living, whatever, but in my case, now I'm just going to make it really personal to how it was for me. I had to show proof of funds of about £25,000 because they calculated cost of accommodation and all of the costs incurred that I just mentioned previously. They kind of like did like a rough total of everything, and they were like, tell us that you can afford this. So we basically just have to say, yes, we have access to this much money and we can spend it, and that's that. So that's like basically the proof of funds sort of aspect. And now let's talk about like how I was able to actually acquire this much money. So because I'm actually doing it through my university, I am still entitled to getting my Student Finance England money. So Student Finance, usually like they give you money, they don't just give you money, obviously it's still a loan, but it's like different to your tuition fees. So tuition is much cheaper when you're doing a year abroad. For me, it's like 90% off. I think it's like that with every study abroad student from England, but basically you still get your maintenance loan, but you get like way more. And again, it depends which country you go to, because they evaluate everything. They evaluate like household income, they evaluate where you're going to, they evaluate how long you're going to be there for and everything, and then they give you money to spend on that academic year. So that is a big proportion of the money that I needed just for accommodation. So that was quite good. So what I realized is that visa amount that they tell you, it doesn't mean that you need to like actually have that much, because things might end up being like way cheaper, because they obviously have to like overestimate things to just see that you can afford it in the worst case scenario. But things worked out quite well in the sense that I didn't have a meal plan, so that was a cost that I didn't really need to pay for. And then I also got like the cheaper end of the spectrum for accommodation. So when I came to calculate things, I was like, okay, I'll probably need like roughly 15,000 to be able to like do my year abroad. So that was a kind of figure I had in my head to do it. And of course I can spend more if I decide to do other things like traveling and stuff, but at the moment I'm just thinking of like essential money, like to literally be able to survive, including visa, including insurance, including everything, right? Just survival things, like no extra trips, no extra shopping sprees and nothing like that. I thought 15,000 is what I need. So then Student Finance came along and they gave me about 60% of that, which was really good. It worked out well. So I thought, great, I need only 40% to cover that. So when I came, of course I came with some savings, and I have actually worked previously. I've got a remote job, and I also do work in Tesco in England, so I worked a lot to be able to save up to work towards that extra 40% that I needed. So that is basically like as simple as it is. Yes, I do want to enjoy and do other things, so that's why I am still looking into like carrying on my remote job here, but I'm not entirely sure yet how that's going to pan out, because I low-key can't be bothered. But here's the secret. Here is what not a lot of people know about study abroad, and I wish more people know about this. So if you're from England, then this is applicable to you. If you're not, then I'm really sorry, it's probably not going to help you out that much. But basically, right, with Student Finance England, there's actually like another little scheme that they do, and for some reason they actually don't advertise this. Like, not a lot of people know about this, but they have this thing called the SFE's Travel Grant. I found out about this through this girl that did the same scheme as me last year, and she basically told me about it. But basically what you do is you keep receipts to everything pre-departure. That is flight, that is vaccination, that's visa, that is there was something else, insurance money, and then you keep receipts for everything once you're there, which only incurs travel to and from your accommodation. So whether you get like an Uber to your accommodation every day, not accommodation, campus, from your accommodation, let's imagine you live 20 minutes away. If you get an Uber every single freaking day from there to your campus, keep the receipts to that, because what you're able to do, and I've already done this, and I've been here 2 weeks, but I've already done it. I just low-key wanted my money back. I filled out the travel grant, and I literally had to upload evidence online, which is basically pictures of the receipts and everything, and then I wrote like the total of how much money I spent. And what they do is they deduct, this is like such a random figure, but they deduct the first £303 from like the lump sum that you give them. So imagine I spent about like, I don't know, including everything, probably like 3.5k, which is like flights, visa and immunizations. and then they deducted £303 from that, and then calculated a few other things, including like to do with household income and whatever rubbish, and then they gave me the money back, and it was like really quick, straight to my bank account. And I thought that was like amazing, because like before I got here I got the money back, if that makes sense, because I was very, very, very organized. So I got everything done, and pretty much I sent it off, and then as I got here I got the email that they received the evidence, and then I literally got all the money back. So that was really good. The other thing that not a lot of people know about as well is there used to be a thing called Erasmus, but that doesn't exist anymore. So now there's a new scheme called the Turing scheme. That has nothing to do with SFE, I don't think, but I think it's still something to do with, well, I don't know, it's to do with this guy called Alan Turing, and he basically like funds people who want to go abroad, and obviously you do have to be a UK resident to do that. But basically, right, this does depend on where you're going. I know I've said that a lot, but they look at different categories, like band 1, band 2, band 3. I think 1, I don't remember if it's 1 or if it's 3, but one of the 2 is like the more expensive one. So like US is considered like band 1, and then they look at how long your placement is. So if it's, there's like a cut off from like 1 to 4 months, I think, and then like the whole 9 months plus or whatever, something like that, or like 4 months plus, whatever it is, something like that, but like a longer placement, which is me, I'm here for 2 semesters. Then they give you monthly sums of money that you don't need to pay back, and what they do is you got to fill in like all the paperwork and everything online. It's kind of long, but it's really worth it, because it's literally free money that you get every month. On average, I think it's about like £380. You can literally find all this information on their website. I can put the link in my bio if you want to see on the description, if you guys want to like look into it a lot more, because it's so worth it. I knew about the scheme, but I didn't know, like, it's not guaranteed that they give it every year, but pretty much they do give it every year. They just say that, and your organization will bid for it, so you don't actually have to do anything, but you do have to do like your own paperwork, like once you start the application, like once your school will help you with it, I'm sure they will. But that was really, really good, because we were able to then have like a sum of money every month that we're able to, I haven't received it yet because September's just started, and we get it at the 28th of each month. That is actually really, really good, because for me it will work out more in dollars. So if it's like £308, that'll be like $410 or whatever. But that's so good, because that can literally go towards like groceries and then my phone bill or something along those lines. I mean, I genuinely think I'm quite good at budgeting and stuff, and it is important to be. And also try and open an international bank account if you can, because usually they incentivize it and they give you like cash upfront or something, like not upfront, but like they will give you some sort of incentive, like $100 if you join the Chase bank account, something like that. So definitely do that. And also it's so much easier to just be able to handle your finances and budget and everything so much more. Like, I would recommend doing that. I just think it's so important to find a balance of like spending on like essentials, but also just having fun. Like, I went to the farmer's market and I was like, yeah, do I want to pay $9 for a little pie? But I was like, I'm never going to be able to spend $9 on a pie again. So then I bought it, and it was good. I think it's like really good to just kind of mentally have an idea of how much you're going to spend each month. So accommodation, that's a set amount. Like, you, like the amount you got to pay for rent is set. Like, you don't need to really like guesstimate that, whereas it is good to be able to like kind of have a guess of how much you're going to spend on I forgot to mention something else, oh my god, laundry. You have to spend money on laundry as well, but it's really cheap. Here to wash and dry it's $3 flat. Like, that's so good. But yeah, that's just another thing to factor in as well. I completely forgot to mention it. And again, because that's a set price, you kind of know, okay, let's say I wash it once a week, that's like $12 a month, so that's like that. And then you're like, okay, so I've got accommodation, which is this much a month, I've got laundry, which is $12 a month, a set price, I've got my phone bill, which is a set price, I don't know, $25 a month. So you can kind of calculate that is how much you're gonna need. Then you can say, okay, I can kind of guess how much I'm gonna need for food, and then like, oh, the water in the taps is so disgusting here, so like we get water bottles, so how much will you spend on water bottles? You can kind of, as you like go through, you'll be able to guess like, okay, I can go for like 1 giant bottle a week, so I'll need about 4 a month, so that's that times 4, blah blah. Like, you get it, right? So you kind of just have to go through it, and then you can make like a reasonable guess. And then again, once you get things like SFE and Turing, and then that will come through, and if you choose to get an on-campus job as well, then you'll be able to find it so much easier to manage your finances and everything. That's kind of how I'm going. I'm sort of just like sailing through, don't have a clue in the world how I'm gonna manage the rest of it, but I'm sure it will be fine. So that's basically everything that I can think of for this video. If I literally think of anything else, I would definitely make a part 2. If you've got any questions, then let me know. But alternatively, you can DM me on my Instagram. I literally reply to every DM, unless you're a weird guy, then I definitely won't reply to you. But if it's related, or if it's just like, if you're a girl and you're not weird and you want to ask me a decent normal question, then I will reply. Otherwise I shall not reply. Yeah, so I hope that it was of some sort of help, and I hope that I inspire millions of people around the globe to do the same thing as me.